So pushers, let's do a bit of editing with Affinity Photo then. So here we have a photograph with a relatively dull sky in the background, and if we want to remove that sky and replace it with something a bit more dramatic, a bit more colour and a bit more intense clouds, then yes, it is essentially a selection of the foreground, or selection of the background, in fact, deleting it and then inserting the new sky. There's a couple of things I want to point out. This particular lens, which is taken with a Samyang 14mm, you will sometimes get some chromatic aberration, which you can see that blue fringe in there. And of course, if you're just looking at that image as is, it's hardly noticeable, but it's always a good idea to take it out anyway. But if you're going to be replacing it with a sky, that will stand out, so we do need to take that out. So the first thing we can do before we do anything else is just remove some of that chromatic aberration. So although we're in the photo persona, if we take that image into the develop persona on the top left, and we've got various options here. Obviously we can develop it, but under the lens section we've got chromatic aberration reduction, and let that do its bit and see how much it does on its own. See it reduced it a little bit there. If you just turn it off and then on, you can see it just reduces it a bit. But if we just look at the defringe option here, all we need to do is see the chromatic aberration, the fringing is in a blue range. So we just move that to the blue range, and then essentially just move these sliders, tolerance and threshold and radius about, so that we can remove that fringing. See, there's a little bit there still. Don't want to push it too far because it'll then look too far out of place. And once that's done, then that looks far more natural, certainly at the normal zoom level. So that's been replaced, that's been sorted. So we just click on develop top left, and then that takes us back into the photo persona. And something worth remembering is that it's not just a raw file that you can edit in the develop persona, it's a JPEG as well. So if you didn't tackle that issue initially and you've in the develop persona, in the photo persona, you can go back into the develop and address issues such as that. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go to our selection tool again. You know, I like the selection brush, which is really useful in most cases. So we want to select the foreground, or do we want to select the background? So we'll just do a quick selection, have a look down to see if that's worked. Okay, we got the marching ants, and we'll just center that. It hasn't quite done it well there, but we'll fix that now. So we go to refine. It's on matte, so really what we're doing is we're painting with the refine brush, and this will redo the selection in the areas that we specify. So it's sampling the pixels to make sure we've got it right. Most of it is fine anyway, so I'm just pressing the space bar, it's missed a bit there, and then moving the image about. Most of it's done really well, that's all okay there. Of course you can zoom in to really make sure that the selection is good. There's a little bit there. Now the thing to remember here is about the feathering. When you're replacing something behind these finicky little protrusions, it's always a good idea to just feather it by a couple of pixels not too much, so that the edges aren't quite so stark. Okay, and once we've done that, then let's just put this selection on a new layer. Now we'll just leave it as a selection for now, not on a new layer, so you can see it's selected it and we're happy with that selection. And of course we've selected the sky. What we want to do is remove that sky, and so one of the quick methods is just to go to edit and cut, and that'll remove the sky. Okay, so we can look down now, and that's remove the sky, and that refining of the selection and feathering the edge really helps sell the effect at the end of the day. And to deselect the marching ants, of course you can just do escape on your keyboard, which is what I prefer, or you can click on here this deselect option as well as going into select menu and deselect there. But here now we'll just click on that. That's got rid of the marching ants. So that's 3 different ways to deselect. Escape keys as quick as anything else. Now let's go to the other image. That's the image we want to replace behind it. So if we select that image, again you could crop it, but if we do use the Marquee Selection tool, if you don't see the Marquee Selection tool, it's because one of the other selection tools is at the front. So just click that little arrow and then select the one that you want. And all we want to do is just do a rough selection. It doesn't really matter exactly because it's going to be sitting behind the buildings anyway. Now that we've got that image selected, just do Command and C to copy, or Control and C on a PC. Go to your destination image and go and do Command and V, or Control and V, of course. And because the layer's on the top, if we just drag it and bring it down to the bottom, and that's now inserted it in there. Click on the move tool top left, so that allows us just to move that selection, and we could probably just pull it up a little bit to increase the size so we can have a bit more flexibility in where we place it. Okay, now you can see a little bit of haloing, okay, but we'll address that in a different way in a moment. So once that's done, we can combine these images together, because and we can just click on merge down here when you right click on the layers, so that's now merged into one layer. Because one of the things to really help sell an image once you've composed it from 2 or 3 different elements is to apply an effect over the whole image. So whether it's an adjustment, whether it's a tint, or whether it's or the more detailed editing. But one of the quickest things you can do is just duplicate that layer, so we've got 2 copies of it, and then just change the blend modes. Okay, something that adds a bit of dramatic. So this overlay, which essentially is a way of adding contrast, or soft light, which is a little bit more subtle. So we'll go to soft light, which is a form of overlay. But again, if that, let's click on the tool. If the effect is a bit too stark, you can just reduce the effect of it. So that's without the overlay option, soft light option, and that's at full strength. So if we just bring it down to maybe 80%, something like that, so it's just a bit more subtle. So that's before and after. Okay, that then helps to blend in the 2 images a lot better. Now there are other ways, of course, of removing that halo or to minimizing it, and we can look at those at future future tutorial. But that's it for now. Have a go at that. So refining the selection, selecting an additional background plate, inserting it, and then laying an effect over it. And of course we can do a lot more with this and make it even more dramatic as an image once you've actually added two parts together. And again, you can two elements together, just go to File and Export and save it as a JPEG, whatever quality and where you want to from here. Okay, give that a go. Thanks very much.